Check, check.
Last night, you got my attention. You keep me wanting more and more. Out of the blue, another dimension. In my head, it's you and me on the dance floor. I don't believe in love at first sight, but the way you look at me is changing my mind. In the morning when I open my eyes, what you said to me last night goes round my head like na 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 na. Last night na 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 na. What you said to me last night goes round my head like we had a connection. I've never felt this way before. Didn't say a word, kinda like the tension. In my head, it's you and me on the dance floor. I don't believe in love at first sight, but the way you look at me is changing my mind. In the morning when I open
Thank you, Des.
my eyes, what you said to me last night goes round my head like na 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 na.
Hey, give me 1 second. I'm streaming just on YouTube today. Because yesterday I actually streamed, but it didn't transmit to YouTube for some reason.
It went from something you said, now you're here in my bed. What you said to me last night goes round my head like what you said to me last night goes round my head like what you said to me last night goes round my head like I don't believe in love at first sight, but the way you look at me is changing my mind. In the morning when I open my eyes, what you said to me last night goes round my head like I found you in the spring and held you through the summer. But when all the leaves change, you ain't cold. You sipped right through my fingers, held so tight they blistered. Couldn't last the winter, now I'm alone. I'm told it
Just this and that, dude. I did Temporal and Elite Archimedia earlier.
So can we rewind to the good times, to the long days and the warm nights when you were mine under starlight, made these big plans for a lifetime, but you keep getting colder. I don't understand.
And that weekly is done.
One day you love me, the
And
I guess we're getting old.
Nightwave is at 30. Obviously, I got the whatchamacallit on. So I think I have a Netracell to do. And an Archon hunt.
I guess you don't remember, guess you never meant it, wish you never. Going on my mind with this paranoia. I try to justify, but I can't escape the truth, even though I'm trying. You do your part and lie to me. Tell me you need this, dress me in gold, raise me so high your sins become my pedestal. Wish I believed.
Yeah, I finished those up yesterday when I thought I was streaming. Oh, it's down here. Wait, where the hell is this thing at? Yeah, you can buy one a week. Hey, I got a dumb question. Why is everybody freaking out about Hot Shot? Is this because it's just this crit chance on everything? I mean, it can save you 3 crit mod slots. I mean, reds are nice, but there is kind of a fall off between reds and oranges. Like, the big deal is getting yellows, right? Like, that's the big deal. Going to oranges almost doubles. It doesn't completely double, but it's like it almost doubles your damage. And reds is like a 50% increase over oranges. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. I looked at it and I'm like, oh, that's nice. Like, obviously that's nice, right? But like people freaking the fuck out over it, like, I just didn't get it. Like, obviously, if you're going to remove crit chance from all those things and use that to replace it, like, there's an argument for that. If you use that as your crit chance instead of doing crit chance on all of your weapons, okay, now we're talking, right?
I woke up in self-destruction mode. I press go and I do it again. I love my sins, they're all I know. We got closer than all of my friends. 777
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
happy with
dash,
the
guess
water.
I'm feeling lucky. I kinda got a thing for cash, I just want your money. I'm tying cherry knots, got them twisted like my stomach. I'm a mess.
Because if you're getting 300 crit chance from that, dude, I don't know about you, but I'd be taking all the crit chance mods off everything I got. Especially if the weapon, or especially if the frame was like an exalted weapon, or God forbid titanium or something like that, you know? I'd be taking all that shit off.
I'm in the Czech Republic, checking out, come and find me. I can't just have a little drink at me, never nice. We woke up on a Monday, went to bed on a Friday. I like me, you wanna bite me. Devil on my shoulder.
Say I just wanna know ya.
And if you pull me closer,
Oh baby, I'ma show ya.
my vision's getting slower.
But baby, what's composure?
Should've listened when I told ya.
I woke up in self-destruction mode. I press go and I do it again. I love my sins, they're all I know. We got closer than all of my friends. Before I do that damage, my ego is titanium. I woke up in self-destruction mode. Watch me go, I'ma do it again. Self-destruction mode. I woke up in self-destruction mode. I press go and I do it again.
Well, it depends on what you put on it. Like, if you're like a shotgun, you could replace it with a faction, like a fire rate mod. Since fire rate is interchangeable with tempo, right? Since they're both 90, it's not like arcane velocity, where it's 120 as opposed to like anemic, which is 90, right? Like, you'd want to keep velocity. Just trying to get the best stat you could for each thing, right? But the fact is that, like, say, like 300 crit chance, it would be best in slot for like everything. So what the hell gives you 300 crit chance? Like the galvanized crit mods? That's the least used crit mod out of everything. I mean, there's definitely builds for it, but you're basically having to ADS the entire time. And the Corrupted Vault crit chance mod is like 200. So you would just take that off. Because you're either running a fire, whatever your primary is. The easiest mod I feel in terms of build flexibility to take off is the attack speed or fire rate mod. Because like strike is 60, right? Velocity's 120. Acceleration is what? 90? Tempo's 90. So they're really easy to take off. Yeah, like, say for example, if you were running like a cold primary or like a Sea-Doo primary, it would free up a slot for Shivering Contagion, which is a really good utility mod. If we're talking like utility mods you could equip. Or another elemental. Further increase your electric weighting. Or your heat weighting, right? Get that 90 on there. So you can run the 60-60 plus the 90. That'd be super nice. Oh, you're running on a Sentinel? That makes sense. As a Panzer enjoyer, I typically don't run a Sentinel. Unless it's like something with the Verglass, which obviously I can run with Shivering. Who's this guy at? As dumb as it is, the one that I'm honestly kind of excited about for like new bros trying to do higher level content would be the res from Mercy Kill. When you get like X number of Mercy Kills. Because there's ways to make Mercy Kills super easy. Especially with the Parazon mods, I'm sure there's some oddly good interactions sitting there. Especially when you got stuff like the Zacti rolling around, you know? Just auto opens people to finishers. Hey, thanks for the +1, dude. Hey, what's up, Eddie K? If you covered this before, but do you have any idea how to get a better understanding of this game's modding system? Dude, what aspect? Understanding the modding system, like really, like the actual math behind it. Understanding the concepts is really easy, but understanding the math behind it, it's surprisingly involved for what's supposed to be just like, you know, a little free-to-play game. Like, people have put tons of work into it. Even I've contributed a little bit. Since we got him out. I guess I would like to understand the concept. I was messing around and Void Armageddon and saw people doing more damage, radiation, cold using Spiral Slash. It's the enemy weakness types. And radiation exists on a lot of weapons innately. Were they modding for radiation? Because they recently changed how the weaknesses work. They did. They changed how it works. So it's a flat 50%. They made it very easy to get now. Yeah. No, they're higher bonuses. The Condition Overload, Berserker, Blood Rush, Weeping Wounds, Primed Reach setup for quick attack builds. That's what I got on this one. Right? Just sitting there and autoing. They're all best in slot mods. So like 5 of the 8 mods are like taken up for you. It's just because they offer the highest bonuses for a single mod. So if you're trying to multiply your damage, it's the best way to go. And if you're doing Void Cascade, none of those guys, the Thrax and whatnot, none of those guys have factions. They're factionless, so there's no faction mod. So you got to do like status damage. There's other multipliers. It's not as strong as like a primed faction mod, but they're trying to move away from those.
Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call my name, and it feels like home. When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I wanna take you there.
But yeah, I guess I can tell you about like the standard best in slot mods for like each type of weapon. Blue Shard. Hey, I got a ribbon. Ooh. And there's still flexibility in enough stuff, but the concept for a lot of stuff is pretty kind of locked in. No, it's good, dude. I got time to kill. So your standard multipliers are actually pretty simple to understand when you talk about it in broad terms. Okay, so say for like a melee, you were talking about melees, you're going to have your stance. Your stance is going to have its own multipliers. Hey, and so your stance is important. Reaping Spiral and Stalking Fan are going to have separate multipliers, so that's its own multiplier also. Don't forget the stance. And that's one of the differences. One of those differences between like gold stances and blue stances is the broad general rule of thumb. It's not hardlined, but the broad general rule of thumb is the rarer the stance and the newer the stances, the better the multipliers are. It's not always the case, but just the general term. So the main multipliers for higher level builds is you're going to have a base damage multiplier, and you're going to have your average critical multiplier, which is crit chance and crit damage. So Blood Rush is going to be your best in slot crit chance mod. Galvanized Steel is going to be your best in slot crit damage mod. Range, so you hit more enemies at once, therefore increasing your DPS. Now your next multiplier is going to be attack speed. Faster you attack, the more damage you deal per second, because it's damage per second. More times per second, more damage per second. The next one is Weeping. If you're doing a status build, if you are doing like a heavy attack build, you can use Prime Pressure Point, but it also means you don't have to slot Weeping Wounds. That goes away. And you might use something where your damage comes from your combo counter, in which case you would slot Galvanized Reflex. Hey, Weasel. But going back to the quick attack build, Condition Overload, Weeping, so you want to deal a status. Your status is purely picked by whatever enemy you're trying to kill. For Corpus, you use a Toxin weapon. For Grineer, you use Heat or Slash. There are other ways to deal with it, but that's just general rule of thumb. Grineer have armor. Nowadays, we kind of don't give a shit about it. But you can also use electricity. It's still good for like a couple thousand levels, so don't think it like falls off, especially if you're doing basic star chart stuff. So you're gonna have your dot. Right now, the meta choice is electricity, so you would take shocking touch. So we have base damage, which causes you to get a flat bonus. This one scales with the number of status effects on the enemies. So it scales the highest. So you have base damage, range, obviously hitting more enemies at once means you deal more damage, average critical multiplier. So these two mods together. Berserker Fury. When you kill an enemy, you gain a buff that gets stacked. Stacks 2 times. The attack speed increase lasts 10 seconds. This is best in slot purely because it gives you the highest bonus. That being said, it is not uncommon to see people running Prime Fury. This is 55 attack speed. Berserker Fury is 70. So it's up to you. The meta element is electricity right now, and the final standard multiplier is Galvanized Elementalist, which gives you status damage. So if you're hitting something and you deal 100 electricity damage to it, this mod's going to make you do 180 electricity. When you look at the dots, literally just the dots, it's not going to affect the damage you hit them with, it's going to affect the dot. And it also gives you additional status chance. And this is, yeah, it used to be exponential, Cirrus. I'm sure you remember that, where it was literally 80% or 120%. Like it was like Blood Rush, right? They stacked to insane degrees. It was just exponents everywhere. But the main reason why electricity, going back to Gauss, is the meta is because now we have arcanes. These are still relatively new in the scheme of things. Is we have melee influence. You have a bunch of arcanes you can get. Melee influence on melee electricity status. 20% chance for elemental melee status effects to apply to enemies within 20 meters for 18 seconds. Cannot refresh while active. So you click that, and every time you hit something with your 5.9 meter range, you have a 20% chance to trigger an 18-second buff, where every time you do an electricity proc, that proc hits everything in 20 meters. So it turns you into like a nuke. So, and then the Tenno-Kai, which is one of our new multipliers also, you pick your favorite one. And when you get a heavy attack proc, that's where it gives you the little zigzag in your reticle. You get a super quick combo counter efficient heavy attack, and it doesn't cause you to lose any combo count. But you can pick any of these fucking things. Like Dreamer's Wrath is the highest damage one. Conditions Perfection is a shit ton of status effect. Dispatch Overdrive is an OG. It's been around for a while. Primary Influence? God, I hope not. On Heavy Attack Hit, this one's been around for a long time. When you hit something with a heavy attack, it gives you a good chunk of movement speed, but it doesn't increase your damage. So you don't really see it a lot anymore, but you'll see some older players run it because that movement speed is nice, bro. So, and you got a bunch of other ones that are like defense oriented, like parry angle. On some weapons, this can be kind of a meme. Like parry angle actually is kind of broken on Wukong, his 4. Parry, 90% chance to open enemies to finisher attacks after Warframe blocks melee. How often do you get hit by a melee? I mean, maybe it's a little more relevant in 1999 because you got those little dudes that run at you. They'll get some melee attacks. But who in the hell's blocking nowadays? You nuke everything in sight. So you really just don't have the chance to use this. And parry angle to focus defense requires you to use the block mechanic. And who the fuck's using that nowadays? You just blow everything up. So the reason why it is a new mod, there's actually a lot of new mods. So for a melee influence build where you're trying to maximize this arcane, everything in this setup is kind of locked in. Like, the only way you can really get anything off of this, like, I have a Riven sitting here. I don't have space for it, though. So it just sits here. Right? Like, it'd be nice to have a Riven on here, but the combination of the low dispo, because the weapon's new, I can't, it's really hard for me to roll anything high enough to give a shit about. So the Riven just sits here. I'm waiting on the dispo to go up. But also, one of the easiest things is if you're doing, like, say, something with, like, the Grineer, or, like, anything where, like, the Corpus, Infested, the Grineer, or the Orokin, is you can take Berserker off, drop your faction mod here, if you have a frame that you can fit Strike on. This Arcane Strike, you can take off Berserker and be way ahead of the game. Because influence triple dips on faction. This mod heavily increases melee influence. So if you see somebody that they're both running the same weapon, and it seems like one of them is doing a shit ton more damage, one of them's probably running a faction mod instead of Elementalist, and they're against the appropriate faction. Because melee influence gets really jacked up by the faction mod. So combining these two. Yeah, the Synapse, it's a good pickup, dude. I already grabbed everything. It didn't roll over, did it? So that's why, like, this example that I built for you is literally what I'm using over here. That's literally what I'm using. So there's a lot of stuff where, like, because of the base multipliers, base damage increase, it's around to the reset. Okay. Range, average critical multiplier, attack speed, a status increase, because this weapon, the way it's set up, deals damage with a status. So I need the highest amount of status I could possibly get. And then I need to increase how much damage that dot does while increasing my modded base damage before base damage increases. So Shocking Touch goes on, and then I want the additional multiplier of status damage increase. So if I deal 100 electricity dot, this will make me do 180. So it's just a really safe, well-rounded, quick attack setup. So it's pure personal preference. And it just, yeah. And the only thing that's personal preference up here is the stance and the Exalted. So try a setup like this. If you're against weaker enemies, you're gonna feel a little weaker. So maybe there's like some things to talk about. If you're doing like Cascade, and honestly, like even before like say like level 1000, like when you start climbing, because Cascade you scale so fast. For most of the star chart, or for the entirety of the regular star chart, and for most of Steel Path, admittedly, primed pressure point is going to feel better to use. It's not going to perform better if you stay in mission, but it will feel better to use. Because the melee damage per status type affecting the target, you're not going to get as many hits against an enemy. You might just be one-shotting them. So you might only get the benefit of like one status type. Well, that means this is only plus 80. This starts you out at 2 equivalent status types. So this might feel better if you're just one-shotting everything. You're going to see bigger numbers. But the difference is with Condition Overload, where this is 165, if you have 10 statuses on something, this melee damage increase becomes 800, where this, and all of a sudden it's more than 4 times better than this mod. But you got to be priming, and like you have to have a weapon with like force procs, right? Like I'm really heavily electricity weighted, and I've got a weighting for a corrosive on here, which is an 8. And then I have a force slash proc from the stance, so that's 3 right there that I know I can count on in quick order. That's why when you saw me playing, you would see me stop occasionally and like melee standing still, is because that's where the force slash is on this stance. So and then I would have like viral from the pet, which I don't have the Panzer on right now, but that's why you see me doing that stuff. I know it looks like I'm just running around, and to be honest, I kind of am, but like if I have 4 status procs, that's a 320% bonus, which is almost double prime pressure point. So try using this build. This is the very this is a very standard quick attack. Yeah, and Ceres is right. It also depends. I'm a Panzer junkie. The Equilibrium Synth Deconstruct combo is just, it feels like easy mode, dude. It completely gets rid of the need for Energize. But no, the Durga, especially on melee builds. Holy shit, dude. If you're looking for damage on a melee build, bro, Durga's where it's at. But you don't get the energy economy. But to be honest, if everything's fucking dead, how much do you care, right? I'm gonna go double check. Freaking me out that this shit rolled over. It rolls over tonight. And I've got 26. And what's my dude got? 15. So if I've got 4 weapons worth once I finish this dude. So that'll be decent upgrades, depending on the percentages. I think the god roll for the Motovore. Doesn't Hellstrom with Durga generate more energy than Panzer? Bro, it depends on what you're fighting. The Hellstrom overperforms because the Hellstrom's the AoE, right? Um, it's the little micro missile or whatever the hell they call it. If you're fighting melee enemies or stuff that you can group, the Hellstrom starts to perform hella good. Little squiggly boy, right? Or is this the shotgun? Oh yeah, this is micro missiles. I had it right the first time. So if you can get that AoE working, yeah, the radial attack, 3 meter. Bro, this is a hell of a good time if you can make this shit work. Hey, can't complain, fusing. So it really depends. Like for me, I use the Verglass a lot when I do use these. And to be honest, listen, I know the micro missile thing. If you're doing a melee build, one of the things, and maybe it's just one of the things where it's just you've had it installed so long. Try using the Hellstrom without prime pressure point. Bro, that thing's gonna knock you on your fucking ass all the fucking time. That's the reason why I stopped using it, and I actually swapped over to the sweeper because of it. If you have prime pressure, or not prime pressure point, prime sure-footed. Yeah, no, I get the interaction, but I'm just saying with without prime sure-footed, mentally for me, the Hellstrom's a gamble because the AoE can knock you on your ass, especially if you're trying to melee. Because like the Durga's not going to hit things like if they're like 15, 20 meters away. That's not why you're using the Durga, right? You're using the Durga for the arc coil. So you got that AoE around you. So as you're hitting stuff with your melee, you're hitting a bunch of freshly primed things. But the AoE from the Hellstrom will 100% knock you on your buttocks. So I was like, I can't recommend that. So I stick to my Panzer for the 3 to 400 EHP or 3 to 400 HP regen it gives me. Bro, those spores cook. The Robodog does the same thing with the knockdown. Yeah, the that little barrier, especially if you're running an explosive weapon, you'll shoot yourself in the face. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's that. Like, I've run Prime Sure-footed, so like as soon as I saw Prime Sure-footed, bro, max ranked that shit and just immediately started forming frames, whatever the hell I wanted to use, and that shit went on everything because I hated dealing with knockdowns, having to use like handspring. There was even a guy in the clan that at the time that was using the triple mod setup to make themselves immune to knockdowns. But it doesn't stop you from getting hit with flinches still. You still run into them occasionally, where it's like you're close enough to an explosion that'll cause you to flinch and not cause you to get knocked on your ass. It doesn't prevent flinches. So if you're running like a Tsar or like a Brahma or something like that, that's why like occasionally when you hit something and it's like kind of away from you but still near enough to you, you'll flinch. But if you shoot it close enough to yourself to where it should knock you on your ass, you'll be like completely immune to it. So it's just like that's one of the things with the Hellstrom is I tried it and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be really good. Like bunch of little micro missiles, right? And then I just like kept getting knocked on my ass if I wasn't playing like Nezha or something with Prime Sure-footed on it. So, Gauss, do you have any other questions? I just gave you like the basic explanation. Like that's very, very middle of the road. Like that's just a straight up meta setup right now. And from what I can tell, Ninjas is going on a tirade against melee influence, and I'm here for it. Well played, Ninjas, on his tirade against melee influence. Bro, I hope he does it. Get it nerfed, dude. Make people play other things. Okay. Yeah, if you got... Yeah, no problem, dude. And if you got any more questions, bro, there's a lot of people... there's a lot of people that make good content explaining... that have, like, really good builds now. Like, I noticed that there's a bunch of new content creators that have come out that make, like, really solid build guides. But there's also a couple where it's like they understand. I'm just gonna use them. I'm gonna say who it is. Like I watch him, but like, what is it? Salt Prime. He posted a build for the dual Vicious, the new dual swords. And he went triple crit damage on it. Listen, his build is going to work. And he also went a 60/60 electric mod. His build works. Especially if you're doing regular steel path and you're just running around 1999. Like, your build works. But there's sort of like this thing that we're having to deal with right now where everybody feels like they're dealing a shit ton of damage when you're in 1999, like that area, because there's a lot of enemies that are literally covered in weak spots. Like on most of the enemies, anything that's a TV on them is a weak spot bonus. And on a lot of the enemies, you get a flat 100% crit chance bonus. So you get a weak spot bonus and flat crit chance when you hit these spots. And like 99% of the tech rot doesn't have armor. So you feel like a genius running around blasting shit in the face. But if the quest line was any indication, the next enemy that we're going up against is the Tau, and let me tell you, they're the exact opposite. There ain't no free weak spots on that shit. Like, I'll give you an example. Let me show you the weak spot on these fucking sentients, dude. So it's going to be the exact opposite. And most of them have, like, a pseudo built-in adaptation, right? Like some of them do. Pardon me. What's the easiest way to do this? Scourge, right? Yeah, the tiny little heads. Bro, that's exactly why I brought him here, to talk about the tiny little head of this fucking sentient dude. This tiny ass little head of this motherfucker. Okay, so you see this red guy, right? See that tiny little fucking thing right there? course the dog hit it. See this tiny little thing right here? Bro, that's its fucking weak spot. The tiny little thing right there on the end with the yellow on it, that's its eyes. And with these guys, the tiny little thing at the top, that's a weak spot. And tiny little head. Tiny little head. Okay, he exploded.
Looking at the moon as I can't sleep. I've been up for way too long. The silence bothers me. It causes me to think about our history.
Hey, sci-fi. But yeah, so we're if that's the next enemy that we're going up against, we're going from an enemy where you can literally be blind and hit a weak spot to an enemy that's a giant middle finger, because they're moving around too. And they're going to be like, hey, good luck hitting that shit. Like, you're actually about to have to aim now. Because there's no way in hell DE is unintentionally giving us all these weapons that have corrosive on it. That's been like a big no-no. Like, that's one of the elements you don't get to get. Because it's so easy to do corrosive viral heat on, like, say, the cost assist. Especially the Coda. It's got enough status chance. You can throw Weeping Wounds and 2 60/60s on with a 90 heat and force proc slash on it. It's an incredibly potent weapon. Especially for like general use. And now we have gas on weapons. On the melee, those things are ridiculous. I'm sorry. The YouTubers and shit like that are right about those. They're incredibly strong. If it wasn't for the Incarnons, they would be the best melees in the game, because gas is that good. One out of 5, so I actually do have. Morning sci-fi. Let me get some water. Yeah, no, gas is super good. I'm so glad, dude. I've been such a gas, like a fan of the gas status. Like, what was it? Oh god, how long ago was it? Jesus. When did I come out with that actual gas damage build? July 27th, 2022. So almost 2 years ago. Did I see the Nintendo Compact? I have not. But people were complaining that the new gas, or the actual, like, current gas, didn't deal any damage. And it's like, no, it does deal damage, but you're shooting it against Armored Grineer, and they're strong against gas. Like, if you get rid of the armor, even with their gas defense, you're still going to be hitting for like hundreds of, like a couple 100,000 damage. And that's per enemy, per instance of gas. So you start stacking everything. So now that we have a gas melee, and you can put magnetic on it with a single fucking mod, and we now have an arcane that groups everything if an enemy has magnetic on it and it dies. everybody's like, holy shit, gas is great. It's like, no, gas is like the princess and the pea. If you can get the conditions that boost gas, it gets so fucking strong. The new Syandana is called Rift Guard. Oh god, maybe I need to look at this. How's the Syandana look?
Never goes how you want it. And I wanted you back. So in sync when we started. Now I don't understand how we went from wrapped around each other through the summer undercovers, then spent January sleeping back to back. God knows I still want you like the moment that I met you, but it takes the both of us to make it last. When you hold me at a distance, I can tell that something's missing, like I blinked and your heart disappeared. 'Cause even when you're right beside me with your
Oh, I was asking in game, like, what's it look like in game?
nothing breaks like a promise from somebody you trust. Will you be dishonest? Oh, or did you just say too much? How we went from wrapped around each other through the summer undercovers, then spent January sleeping back to back. God knows I still want you like the moment that I met you, but it takes the both of us to make it last. When you hold me at a
Okay, yeah, no, it's definitely not.
Now I stay away, you were never meant to save me.
July 19th.
Hey, out here, say you're sorry.
Waiting with bated breath.
Hate I even loved you, hate I fell in love with you. Hate I even loved you.
Alright, we've been putting it off long enough. Let me get some water. You already have a ticket to TownCon. If I don't get my digital goods yet, if I just buy a pack. Bro, just wait. Holy shit.
Hate I kinda fell in love with you. I cried with you. Now what
Alright, everybody. We're gonna make it awkward. We're gonna give
I for you?
Tag for a hug. I'm gonna get some water. Y'all enjoy that.
I got you in my sight. I keep all the words you said to me. I get you on your knees. Rewrite all the things you said that I should be. I'll get you, now you'll beg me please. Hey. Now I stay away, you were never meant to save me. Now I stay away, out here, say you're sorry.
So how did everybody like their tag for hug? They feel better? What, barbecued tag fur? Nah, bro. It's the last thing you need to. It's the last thing you need to farm for. Oh, still not rank 5? Bro, you can do it in like 6 days. Actually, I'm getting a bad feeling these guys might be retarded. I'm gonna grab Blessing. Hey, we got President Clem with us. We're set, dude. I saw the Mandeville. Attenuation. That's why you see Acolytes die to one-shots more often than seeing them get burned down in like a second. Yeah, it's attenuation. Yeah. Acolytes have a special form unique to them where they actually reduce your crit damage. They have a special formula unique to them. Speaking of attenuation, we got what I'm assuming is a Mesa looking at the damage that they want to deal. This cocksucker. Thoughts on him? Bro, Necros is probably the greatest generalist frame in the game. Let's be honest. I mean, name something he's like really bad at. Yeah, there's lots of ways to get the Necros shadows to do like insane damage. Like with vulnerability and nourish. You can kill level cap Demolus with that. Yeah, no, dude, Necros has a really solid general build, bro. Like a really, really good general build. And then on top of all of that, you get, you know, tons of loot. Gauss House is that everyone now, or everywhere? There, it's not everywhere, and the crit damage adjustment is unique to the acolytes. That's unique to them. And on top of that, they also have a white damage cap. Which is why you see a lot of times like a heavy attack build do shit tons of damage to them. But then you'll see, like, if you do like if you want to build that specifically targets them, you could use like a frag orb to get the maximum amount of white damage. And because the frag orb prime has so much crit chance on it, you could hit like reds or like tier 2 reds, and you can bonk them. Or you can wait for like 4 seconds or whatever it is. Because attenuation only lasts 4 seconds. It's like a 4-second rolling window. Right? So if you're trying to RNG like a red heavy attack, you can just heavy attack them. Wait the 4 seconds, and the attenuation will have gone away, and they'll be ready for like another heavy hit. So you can do that also. Well, there's reasons for that. Like when you look at like a build, right? Remember, puncture procs reduce how much enemy or how much damage the enemy does to you. So you have, if you have a teammate, like say like a Jade, using the Evans song, that's a mobile nerf that's going on. Like whoever they're shooting at is going to go to 0. Like how much damage they deal. But no, I know what you mean, and there's kind of a reason why you feel so much stronger. It's really easy to explain. It's the auras and the additional status effects. Come on, Citrine. Yeah, Crescendo. Can't wait to turn that into Vosper. So, like, one of the reasons why you feel stronger in multiplayer is one, you're just playing with more mods, right? Like, I'm running enemy radar on my Nezha right now. When you play by yourself, right? This is the mod setup that you have. You have 8 regular mods, you have an Aura, and you have an Exilus for 10 mods total. Every teammate you add, this top bar gets full, and like metaphorically, Amar's Anguish sits off to the side over here. But you end up with 12 mods and 4 auras. So if you're going up against Grenier and one person's running like Rifle Amp and 2 people are running Corrosive Projection, don't be surprised if your primary just feels like insanely strong compared to normal. It's because you're playing with the 2 other mods, and you're running Briefer Spite. And then you have other people's pets. Like, that's part of the reason why I always run the Panzer, is the spores benefit everybody. So as my spores are dealing damage, I'm getting healed because of the spore damage. But as the spores spread, because of the way I have it modded, it drops a shit ton of health orbs. So it's constantly healing teammates also. So if somebody plays with me, they're going to find their health bar full more often than not. And if they're running Equilibrium, that's even better, because that means it's energy economy also. But alright guys, it's 11:15. My weeklies are done. Need more to do in Warframe. I'm running out of stuff. Feels bad, man. Tomorrow, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stream tomorrow. I'm going to get some housework done. It's not a lot, and most of it I've already done. But I just want to make sure everything's like tip-top shape. So when my friend gets home with his wife, everything's just in mint condition. Like, everything's done, but like the difference between like, oh, it's done, but it's got like a day or 2 on it, and oh, it's done, I don't have to touch anything, I can go straight to bed, or I can immediately relax. I don't feel like it's at that level. And that's what I'm going for. But, yeah, tomorrow we'll start working on the Exalteds and the last 2 EFV weapons. The secondary, which I actually unveiled a Rivet for, and the primary. The melees are getting an insane amount of love. I like the primary, not the Purgador. I mean, I like that too, but that's not what I'm talking about. Because we essentially got 3 weapons that have innate corrosive on them, which is fucking wild, bro. A primary with corrosive? Dude, just throw 2 green shards on there. What the hell? Or throw 1 green towel for corrosive stacks. And 1 for additional ability damage. Because if you can afford, like, status economy wise, to get 13 statuses on something, to air quote full strip it without overstripping, you probably have a way to completely remove the armor. If you're trying to take advantage of that, you probably know how to completely remove the armor. But me and my homies love corrosion, yeah. But alright guys, I'm gonna take off. Gymnos, good to see you. Weasel, Gauss, I hope the information is helpful, at least explaining like the overall concept without getting into the math. Cirrus, Sci-Fi, Fusing, other Cirrus, Weasel, Dez, enjoy work, dudes. Hey, no problem, dude. Let me know how it works out. Let me know if you out damage the homies, because it's all about that end game stats screen, right? Gotta push them down to 0%. Hey, no problem, dude. Have a blessed day, dudes. Everybody.